back to Alice Talks Football and welcome back to an action-packed live Manchester United show. There is so much to talk about in today's live show. We're going to get into the big story that's dropped today from James Duck of The Telegraph on the out. Only 3 Manchester United players Man United will not consider selling this summer. They've basically put a message: player power's going to end. Nobody's untouchable. Only 3 of you are safe, and that is because you're young. Thomas Tuchel's got a bit of a boost in regards to the Manchester United job and all of that as well. We've got some news on Thomas Tuchel. Manchester United preparing to sign 2 centre-backs this summer. Big boost on Todibo. Big boost also with Manchester United's transfer plans. We've also been linked to the Barcelona centre-back Pau Kabassi, who's a very, very good young talented player. Anthony speaks out about his poor form and his transfer fee, among more news about, Ten Hag potentially going to Ajax. So I want to dive into all those stories. So please do hit the like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. And let's get into the video. I think INEOS are basically sending a message to be like, nobody is safe. You've got to step up. You've got to, prove to me that you're good enough to be in the long-term plans, and that they're going to consider offers for almost everybody this summer. There's only 3 players that are completely off limits. Obviously players like Willy Campbell, Mason Mount, Bruno Fernandes, obviously like those kind of players you expect Man United aren't going to be putting up for sale or anything like that, and I doubt they're going to go. But these are the only 3 players that INEOS are basically saying are safe, like in terms of long-term safe. If Onana doesn't perform next season, if Mount doesn't perform next season, they could be out next season. Bruno, if he doesn't perform next season with his age, he could be out. Same with Luke Shaw. Was Luke Shaw, Lissandro Martinez, Bruno Fernandes probably safe. Campbell probably safe. Of course, Onana probably safe, Mount probably safe. They're basically saying, if a big offer comes in because we need to raise money, we're not going to completely turn much down. So, it was said, Manchester United are prepared to listen to offers for the majority of their first team squad this summer, apart from Maino, Garnacho and Højlund, who are off limits. So, Maino, Garnacho and Højlund off limits. I believe that Mount, Onana, Bruno are probably off limits as well. It said that United's new hierarchy are thought to be ready to adopt an ultra-flexible approach to this summer transfer window, given their tight financial constraints and the likely loss of Champions League revenue. Well, we're not going to be in the Champions League next season. So it was saying United's hierarchy is going to basically adopt an ultra-flexible approach in the summer transfer window, basically saying anyone's up for sale because we need to raise funds because we're not going to be in the Champions League getting that revenue, and we need to spend. We need to do a lot this summer. So we are going to be selling and all of that as well. Big up everybody in the chat. Someone said poor audio. Everyone else is saying it sounds okay. I'm recording in a box with echo, so it doesn't help the audio. It doesn't matter what mic I use. Any of that. The room I'm filming in is literally a box, so it doesn't really help the sound. But I either don't go live or I film in this, so haven't really got much of a choice there because I can't just sit in the street and film. But yeah, hopefully sound's all good. Okay, sound is all good as well. Let's dive into the story. It was said, although not actively seeking to offload a player like Marcus Rashford, United would give genuine consideration to a credible offer for struggling England striker, particularly if he indicated a desire to pursue a fresh challenge. Martial, Varane and Brandon Williams are all expected to leave as free agents at the end of the season, is what was said. So let's have a little chat about this story. So, as we said, INEOS are very much like, what we do this summer depends on sales. Man United have been linked to some really good transfer signings. Man United have been linked to potentially signing some great players, and I'm really intrigued about some of our transfer targets. And there's a lot of players that I want to see us sign. Man United need to make at least 5 signings this summer. I think we need 7. 7 probably isn't realistic, but Manchester United, because they're not in the Champions League, because of FFP, because of the ridiculous money we've spent in the past, Manchester United's summer window and the success of Man United's summer window is massively going to go down to sales. If we can raise 150 to 100 to 150 million in sales, which is very much possible with the amount of deadwood we have, Manchester United can afford to spend £250 million this summer and bring in 5 really good signings. But you've got to be able to sell to do that. And players like Marcus Rashford that could bring you in 100 million, who hasn't been in best form, doesn't look to be particularly happy at United. INEOS might say, well, if you get 100 million for Rashford, they might accept that. Now, I think, I see people saying they take 40 million for Rashford, 50 million for Rashford. I think that's ridiculous because I think while Rashford hasn't been good this season, I think people still underestimate his quality and what he's capable of doing. And when he is in form, he will be a hard player to replace and replicate. I think because he's been so poor this season and he's kind of the new hate target in the fan base. And I understand frustration with Rashford this season because of the work rate, because of the Belfast incident. I absolutely do. But I think people have slept on actually what Rashford's ability is and what Rashford had provided us last season and in one of Ollie's seasons and all of that as well. That I think Marcus Rashford will be a more difficult player to replace than people think. I think if we do sell Rashford, you want 100 million, and it's not about replacing him with Rafael Leao, because Rafael Leao's been crap this season. You know, you need someone that is pace, that is power, that is direct, and Rashford will be difficult to replace. But I think INEOS will go, you know what, his head's not with United this season. He's not been the best professional. He's not been good enough this season. He's a little inconsistent. INEOS might say, look, if we get 100 million for Rashford, we're not going to say no. If Rashford wants to leave, we're not obviously going to say no, because we're not going to keep a player at the club that could be unhappy. INEOS will have those players that they want gone. Those players that INEOS want gone is quite obvious. It will be the Ericssons. It will be potentially Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Casemiro, Lindelof, Brandon Williams, Donny van de Beek, Anthony Martial, Jadon Sancho, Greenwood. They're going to be the players that INEOS want sold. Other players like Maguire, other players like McTominay, INEOS are like, you know what, we get an offer for these guys, let's think about selling them. You know, Mejbri, Pelistri, all of those players. Players like Marcus Rashford. Okay, well, Marcus Rashford is in our plans going forward, but hasn't been totally convincing. You know, a little bit inconsistent. If we get a big offer for Rashford, then yeah, INEOS would probably accept it. And I think INEOS' stance is it doesn't matter if you've signed a new contract or if you were brilliant last season. It doesn't matter who you are, because even Bruno Fernandes, who's been brilliant these last few games, and I think Bruno Fernandes, we should build the team around Bruno Fernandes and Kobbie Mainoo and bring in that third midfielder that partners them perfectly. Even Bruno Fernandes wasn't named on that safe list as well. Going back to, obviously, the report, let me get it back up on my screen for you guys so you can see it in more detail. But obviously Steve says here, those three are our crown jewels for sure. Hands-off signs should also be attached to Licha, Mount, Conwala and Ahmad should be untouchable. We'll lose respect for the INEOS if not. I don't think that Licha, Ahmad, Mount and Conwala would be untouchable, but I think they're players that are probably not going to be up for sale this summer and INEOS aren't going to be interested in selling. I just think because they haven't played as big a role this season, INEOS aren't going to label them as untouchable, but I think they're almost in that untouchable category as well. People say you can replace Rashford with a road cone, and I think people do underestimate how good Rashford can be. I think you can get 100 million for Rashford, and I think if you sell Rashford, we'd actually realise that we do miss him in terms of elements of he is a good goal scorer. He hasn't been good this season, but I think people don't realise that replacing Rashford is a difficult thing to do. I think INEOS would only look to accept around 100 million for Rashford because they'll need to find a genuine good Rashford replacement. I know that right now Ahmad and Garnacho probably start on the wings to me in form, but Rashford on his day is our best winger. If Rashford is in form, he is our best winger. You know, that's one thing that I feel like a lot of people have forgotten, and that's why I think that INEOS wouldn't accept any bid for Marcus Rashford unless it's big, because he will be difficult to replace because he does have the ability to get 20 goals a season. Doesn't do it consistently, but he does that ability as well. Martinez is always injured, which is probably another reason why he's not 100% safe. I think a year ago, Martinez would have been 100% safe. A year ago, they were talking about extending Martinez's contract. He was that good in his first season at United, and I'm glad they didn't do that because that would have been a silly United mistake. He's got 4 years left on his deal. Why are you extending it and giving a pay rise? Give him another season, and I'm glad we waited on that. But yeah, there's a couple of players that won't be safe. Bay and Deer will probably be sold in the summer, yes. Outside of the young trio, I'd basically sell a lot of our squad, and I think most people feel like that. Obviously, I wouldn't sell Bruno Fernandes. There's, Mount, I'd like to give another season to. Onana, I'd give another season to. Delo, I'm all right with Delo and Shaw at the moment. Although Shaw's always injured, I'd give Martinez another season as well. But I think other than that, I'm up to selling the rest of the squad as well. Selling Martinez would be unfair to me. Look, just because Martinez's name isn't on the list doesn't mean he's for sale. Okay, there's 3 players that are untouchable. There'll be players like Martinez, Mount, Onana, Bruno Fernandes who aren't untouchable, but United have no interest in selling and are probably in the plans going forward. And then I generally think that the rest of the team will be up for sale as well. Obviously, Conwala, I don't imagine will be up for sale, but I think with Conwala, if some team went and put 30 million in for Conwala and Man United are like, well, we need 30 million, we're not going to play Conwala, not that we're going to get 30 million for Conwala, then I think United would sell Conwala if that right kind of bid came in, because United are very desperate to raise money in sales. So we've got some news on the outs. Martial, Varane and Brandon Williams are expected to leave Manchester United as free agents. Now, Martial, as far as I'm aware, is on 250k a week. Should we Google this? Man United wages. Should we Google the Manchester United wage bill? Because I believe that Martial's on about 200 grand a week. I believe that Rafael Varane is on about 300 grand a week. And I believe that Brandon Williams is on something crazy like 75. So Rafael Varane is on 340k a week and Martial's on 250k a week. So just by letting Varane and Martial go on a free, you've made 600k a week in wages, 600k a week saved in wages. You add someone like Brandon Williams to that list as well, who I believe is, some people are saying is on 60, 70k. I don't think anyone really knows what Brandon Williams' wages are, but I know that it's quite expensive. But you add Brandon Williams to that, let's say that's 675k a week. 675 times 52 weeks is 35 million. Just to put that into context, by letting Martial Varane and Brandon Williams leave on a free, and not that I'd let Brandon Williams leave on a I'd let Brandon Williams leave on a free, but I wouldn't let Varane leave on a free. I'd like to have Varane one more season and sell Lindelof personally myself, but I understand it because of his wages. But just by letting Martial, Varane and Brandon Williams leave, United are saving £35 million a year. £35 million a year on wages. That is a signing. You can get Mats Wiefer for £35 million, and Mats Wiefer could slot right into our midfield. That's actually pretty mad when you think about it as well. Varane and Martial were basically 30 million off the books, which is absolutely crazy. When you look at our wage bill, Casemiro is the only player on more than Varane. If you get Casemiro out, that's £18 million. By the exit of Casemiro and the exit of Varane itself is 35 million. You get Martial on top of that, takes that to 48 million. If Man United sold Casemiro, Rafael Varane, Anthony Martial, and they managed to get Anthony out as well, that's 58 million. They got Sancho out, that's 68 million. They get Maguire out, that's 78 million. They get Eriksen out, that's 85 million. And they get Lindelof out, that's 90 million. If you sell Lindelof, Maguire, Sancho, Anthony, Varane, Casemiro, Martial, that's nearly 100 million we'll save in wages. That shows how crazy our wage bill is when you actually think about it. That actually shows how bad our wage bill is as well. That'll get the Glazers a few private jets as well, and that probably will, sadly, as well. Varane is a sick note, but by says Richie. I like Varane. I'd keep Varane for one more season. I wouldn't let him go on a free, but with his wages, I understand selling Varane, but I wouldn't sell Varane to keep Maguire and Lindelof. You've got to sell at least one of Maguire and Lindelof to go along with Varane and replace them with two good, fit, younger centre-backs as well. Wan-Bissaka on the verge of leaving too. You add Wan-Bissaka to that, then that's 100 million in wages. Man United could save generally 100 million on wages from selling like Casemiro, Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Martial, Brandon Williams, Eriksen, Anthony Sancho. That's ridiculous when you actually think about like the wages of those at Manchester United. It's crazy as well. And you know that can buy you Mats Wiefer, Xerxes and Tornabo just through in wages saved that year as well. For me, likely been McTominay, Casemiro, Avron, Van der Beek, Saka, Lindelof, Varane. Not sure what you're on about, but I think, you know, I think a lot of players will go. I'm going to be honest with you. I think, obviously, Højlund, Maino, Garnacho is safe. I think Mount's safe. I think Onana's safe. I think Bruno's safe. I think Martinez is safe. I think Delo is safe. I think Kambuala's safe. I think they're the only ones that are safe. I think other players like Rashford and McTominay will really depend on the bids that come in because they can have a role next season. But if a certain amount of money comes in, I don't think INEOS are in a position where they reject a certain amount of money as well. All our centre-backs have been very injury-prone this season, which is exactly why we need two centre-back signings. And we're going to dive into a story talking about United going for two centre-back signings as well. Scott's knee injury came at an awful time with selling potential, plus he could miss the Euros. Yeah, hopefully Scott's injury isn't that bad, but it's not looking good, is it? The injury news on Scott is not looking good as well. Joel Glazer doesn't even know the offside rule. I know, Joel Glazer probably still doesn't know the offside rule, guys. You know, that guy is a fool. But let's talk about more transfer news because we've been talking about Manchester United. We've been talking about centre-back injuries. And reportedly, Manchester United could bring in two centre-back signings this summer. Samuel Lutko said this. Manchester United are eyeing two centre-back signings in the summer transfer window. Branthwaite and Tapsoba are among players United have tracked to address their porous defence. Branthwaite and Tapsoba, two good players, two players United like, two players I don't think we'll get because I think we'll be outpriced. One thing about INEOS and one thing about Man United is they've made it clear they're not going to be spending more than £70 million on one position. They don't really want to spend more than £60 million on one position unless they see it as a necessity, unless they see it as a must. When you're saying that they're not going to spend much more than 60 to 70 million on any position, it rules out a lot of signings. Branthwaite, if we can get him for 60 million, I think it happens because Branthwaite is generally number one on the United centre back list. Tapsoba, it depends on the price. I think when Todibo's 35, 36 million, when Bremer's 50 million, when you look at some of the other centre backs on the market, some of the release clauses, some of the gems in the Bundesliga, gems in Ligue 1, you think actually, what, we might as well, save a bit of money on centre backs because centre back is probably the one position where there's loads of players in that 40 to 50 million range that are very good players. Some areas in the transfer market are difficult. I think DM's a difficult position. I think striker's a difficult position, but I think the centre back market is good at the moment. And United are eyeing two centre backs, and I think Tapsoba and Branthwaite on that list. But I think the chances of us getting them massively depends on wages. It's also said that United are expected to listen to offers for Wan-Bissaka this summer, and I have to say, I think Wan-Bissaka's looked really poor. I think Wan-Bissaka's looked really out of it the last couple of games. I think his head is out of Manchester United. I think he sort of knows his contract's coming to an end and he's leaving. And I think that Wan-Bissaka will leave Man United as well. United need to score goals, centre back. Why not right wing or left wing? Well, we need a centre back. We need a left back because of injuries. We need a DM. We need a centre mid. We need a right wing. We need a striker. Then we need another centre back. For me, we need those 7 signings. I think if we can get 5 signings, I will take that. Big up Saeed. Big up everybody in the chat. Please do hit that like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. For me, you've got to be realistic with Manchester United. While INEOS seem like they're going to be better than Arnold and Murta, it is Manchester United. Actions speak louder than words. If we can get 10 to 12 players out, because I think getting Donny van de Beek and Martial out doesn't really count as getting players out. If we can get 10 players out that aren't Martial and van de Beek, and we can get 5 players in, I would take that as a decent summer. I still think we need good 7-8 signings, but if we can get a top centre back, top midfielder, a striker or a right wing, and a backup fullback because Luke Shaw's got breadstick legs, then I think for me that is a good summer window as well. Todibo seems to tick the most boxes with attributes and costs. I agree. I think when you look at Branthwaite, I think Branthwaite's a very good player. Would I spend more than £60 million on Branthwaite? No. When we need 5, 6, 7 signings, do I really want to drop 60 million on Branthwaite, who's a little bit hit and miss? I'm not sure. I like Branthwaite, but there's a certain budget I would spend on it. I think when Todibo's available for 40 million, when Lukami's available for 30 million, I think that's what United have got to do for me in the transfer is we've got to be smart. We've got to be smart with how we spend our money. We can't just be chucking money on this player and this player and all. We've got 3 signings that were £80 million each that we overspent on. We need to be finding those 40, 50 million signings that are a little bit of gems there as well. We need numbers at centre-back and centre-mid. Can't be one injury away from this season's options. Exactly. We sign one centre-back, we sign one centre-mid. They get injured. We're back with the team we have this season. And the team we have this season isn't very good as well. You're talking about centre-back and the middle. Why you're not talking about left, right wing scores? We need. For me, a good window would be Elise, Xerxes or Sesko up top. I'm not completely convinced on Amadou Onana. I know all the tacticos are hyping up Amadou Onana. I'm not completely convinced on him. I prefer Max Rifa. I like Maxime Kakare of Lyon, who's a different position. Purman showed some good stuff. Fofana could be available for 25 million of Monaco. For me, I think we need a right wing, we need a striker, we need 2 midfielders, we need 2 centre backs, we need a left back, and I'll stick with that as well. Big up everybody in the chat. Please do hit that like button, and of course subscribe down below if you're new as well. Someone said, I know that Garnacho and Højlund are probably safe next season, but they will need to step up. Of course, 100%, but they're 19, 20 years of age. INEOS will see their young players with raw potential. It's, I think at the end of the day, INEOS need to sign another winger and another striker. So, Garnacho and Højlund, we aren't relying on to start every week, and we can mould them in and further their development 100%. But I think that Højlund has everything to be a top player. I think that Garnacho has everything to be a top player, in all honesty, guys. I really, really do. I get Neto from Wolves. He's more direct. I think Neto suits the way we play now more than Elise does, but Neto's injury record is way worse than Elise's. I think Elise is a better player than Neto, and I think under potentially a new manager next season, under a new philosophy, a new style of play at INEOS, Elise will probably be the better player and suit what we're going to do going forward. The fear with Elise, of course, is the injury record, but his injury record is a lot better than Neto as well. Someone else has just posted the wage bill here. I'm going to show you this actually because I was just getting Manchester United's wage list up a second ago, and I've just seen that it's just been tweeted by someone on my Twitter as well, and he's saying this: Man United's wage bill, and I think this is interesting because this links to what we're talking about earlier. He said Man United's wage bill is 198 million per year. That's ridiculous, considering that they look like players that are paid about £2 per year because they've been that bad. You know, that's 3,821 per week. I'd like that kind of money per week. Bloody hell, that's ridiculous. Anyone would want that kind of money. I mean, if someone, you know what's mad is most people won't earn that in a lifetime, and that's how much Man United are playing out to crap players in a week. That's worrying. So continuing on, outgoings will be vital this summer, both transfer fee and prospective wages. Obviously, 25% decrease because of not being in the UCL and all of that as well. So 25% decrease on 200 million, I believe, is, I should know that actually, that's 50 million. So 25% decrease is putting the wage bill 150 million. So that's 50 million saved, but that is 50 million for not being in the Champions League. But if you look at the top earners here, Casemiro, as we said earlier, 350k a week. Rafael Varane, 340k a week. Rashford, 300k a week. Let's say Rashford does go. Martial's going on a free. Casemiro and Varane are going. So Casemiro and Varane is 700k a week. Rashford is £1 million a week. Martial was 1.25 million. Sancho takes that to about 1.5 million. Anthony takes that to about 1.7 million. You know, you look at these players, you know, how much money we can actually raise, not just from selling the players, but Eriksen can't even move for more than 10 minutes. He's on 150k a week. Lindelof's on 120k a week. Donny van de Beek barely exists and he's on 90k a week. You know, that's crazy. You know, you look at the wage bill here. This, you know, Deleu's on 85k a week. This side of the wage bill seems somewhat more accurate and fair, but the other side of the wage bill, I mean, that's an absolute laughing stock, isn't it? Absolute laughing stock. Is Donny still here? He's at Frankfurt. I don't think he's really playing for Frankfurt. He's got 1 year left on his contract. I think he'll go out on loan again because I do think we're going to struggle to sell Donny van de Beek. I do think he goes out on loan. Unfortunately, due to the state of the club, we've had to overpay wages to attract signings in recent years, and I think Alex is spot on with that as well. 97 likes, guys. Let's go for 200 likes. We've got 500 people watching, so please do hit that like button if you haven't already, and of course subscribe down below if you're new. How did Anthony go from 20k a week at Ajax to 200k with us? 10 times increase is mad. Do you know what? You're absolutely right. When we did bring Anthony in, I get he cost 85 million, but I reckon Anthony would have signed on 100k a week for us. You look at Anthony on 200k a week. Was Anthony when he was at Ajax? And look, Anthony's been crap at United, but Anthony was a good player at Ajax, but it wasn't anything special. Like, Sancho at Dortmund, we were like, wow. We were gassing up, Sancho at Dortmund. We signed Sancho at Dortmund, a right winger, and gave him less money than Anthony, apparently. Like Sancho at Dortmund was, Sancho's been more disappointed than Anthony because we had high expectations for Sancho. When we signed Sancho, everyone was like, wow, Sancho's brilliant. When we signed Anthony, everyone was like, he's an all right winger, but it's not worth this kind of fee. Anthony earns more than Sancho. Obviously, none of them need to earn that kind of amount because they've both been useless for United, but Anthony is one of our highest earners when he was on as Alex said, 20k a week at Ajax? Mad. We need to start doing things. Voice is gone. We need to. Oh, voice is one set. Voice is literally just cracked. My throat's just cracked. Oh, my throat's just cracked there. We need to start doing things like, okay, if this goes on 20k a week at Ajax, give him 70k a week, give him 80k a week, 200k. For me, to be on over 150k a week at Man United, you need to be proven. You need to be proven. I get Varane and Casemiro. Don't think they should be on as much as 350k, but I get them being on 200k a week because of what they've achieved. Bruno Fernandes can have over 150k a week because he's proven it to an extent. You know, you've got to prove it. You've got to prove to be on over 150k a week at United, and I don't think many players have. I really don't think many players have. Guys, do hit that like button. I'm just going to scroll through the chat now and see what your thoughts are. No one wants to buy players who play for United. Yeah, that's the problem. I have sympathy for INEOS. I will be judging INEOS a little bit of what they do this summer, because they need to sell and they need to buy, and I'm going to be judging that. But I'm also going to have sympathy for INEOS because I'm going to know it's going to be incredibly hard to sell when you see that wage bill. Incredibly hard. I mean, it's unbelievable, but though believable because it's there on paper. It's unbelievable, the wage bill. It really is absolutely unbelievable. I mean, those kind of wages. I mean, Anthony should have been 80 to 100k max. 200k a week is absolute madness, you know. And, you know, you parted in Belfast on 300k a week. You're Jadon Sancho on 200k a week, refusing to play for this club for 4 months. You're Christian Eriksen, you could barely walk on 150k a week. Casemiro, Rafael Varane on 700k combined. Martial's had one leg for the last 3 seasons and been on 250k a week. It's absolutely ridiculous when you actually think about it and look at it. We need performance-based contracts. These sort of wages are corrupt here, 100%. I'm all for, you know what, the wage cap doesn't do Man United many favours in the transfer market, but maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Maybe it's a good thing, because we're going to need some performance-based wages. We're going to need a lot of things. I tell you that as well, because that wage bill is disgusting. That's the word for it. It's absolutely disgusting. Right, I do want to get into some more stories, guys. So, this is an interesting story I wanted to get into. Not that I see it happening, but I thought I'd cover it. Young talents such as Bayern Munich's Jamal Musiala and Florian Wirtz of Bayer Leverkusen could be on the market this summer and would ordinarily be of interest to United. I absolutely understand United being interested in Musiala and Florian Wirtz. I absolutely understand that both those players might be for sale, and they're absolutely talented players. Those players will not go to Manchester United. Yes, we've got some interesting youth at United, and Ten Hag's done well with the youth at United, but Musiala and Wirtz are not going to go anywhere near Manchester United. Let's be honest. One, because United are in a position where they won't be able to spend more than £70 million on one position this summer because they have 5 positions to invest in. And 2, because Manchester United is not in the Champions League. Manchester United has ruined careers. I think while we still have good pull at United, I think United will be attracting the smaller names. And I think as much as I would love a Wirtz or a Musiala at United, we don't need that yet. What Man United need is 2 good centre-backs, 2 good midfielders, a good left-back, a good right wing and a good striker to get us back on track to maybe a good season where we finish 3rd again. And we've got a good foundation to the squad. And once the squad's got a good foundation, you can then go out and spend big cash on Musiala. You can then go out and spend good cash on the likes of Wirtz. But until you've got the foundation in place, those 2 centre-backs, those 2 midfielders, that winger and striker that's going to add to this current crop of players to take United to a level where we're not, you know, a bad side and we're top 4 and we're having a decent season. Once we have had the foundation of the squad established, then you can do those 100 million signings like Wirtz and Musiala to be the final piece of the puzzle. For me, they're players you sign when you've already had a good season and you want to just, you know, catch City. If you finish 2nd and you need to catch City and you're 4 points behind City, you then go drop big bucks on Musiala. Arsenal dropped 100 million on Declan Rice because of, you know, they were in a title race last season until they bottled at the end. We're not in a title race. I think if you're not in a title race, you can't be spending 80, 90 million on a player. For me, I wouldn't say no to Musiala and Wirtz at United 100%. If you not want Musiala or Wirtz, go for them. They're fantastic. But I don't think it makes sense, is what I'm trying to say, for where United's at as well. Wirtz of that ilk would be brilliant. We need a super technical 10 to push through, I agree. I mean, I'm all for Wirtz and Musiala if we had the budget to get 5 other signings on top of that. I don't think we do. Mount and Shaw get their usual free pass. I'm not giving Mount and Shaw a free pass. I'm just saying, you know, with Mount and Shaw, we know what their qualities are, but, you know, next season's make or break for them. They've got to stay fit. They've got to be involved next season, or they've got to go next summer. That's what I was saying as well. Newcastle will spend more than United in summer. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I think what Newcastle spend depends on sales, and what United spend depends on sales as well. Look how many players we let go on a free as well. Pogba, Herrera, David De Gea, tens of millions of funds missed. Because we give them stupid wages, because we give those players ridiculously high wages, all of a sudden they're leaving Man United on free because we can't sell them, or we keep them here for one extra year because we can't be bothered to find a replacement and spend money to replace them, because then we'd have to spend more money to replace them. So we keep players that aren't good enough here, that no one wants to buy here, and we keep players that are not good enough but on ridiculously high wages here because we can't sell them, and that's a worrying thing that's happened at United a while. Sure, we are struck with anyway. No one's buying them after missing the whole season. Yeah, the thing is for sure, Malacia, I think they're here next season. I also think we have a third left back as well. One player I want Manchester United to sign is a guy called Todibo. It was said Todibo definitely remains of interest for United this summer. Price expected to be around 40 million euros. Player looking for a move this summer, with other clubs expected to bid. Should be no issue with multi-club ownership and a fair value in deals to the United Marketeers. I think Todibo to Manchester United for 40 million euros is one to watch. I think when we're linked to Wirtz, when we're linked to Musiala, really can't see that happening or anything like that happening. But when we're linked to Todibo, I think, okay, there's potential where there's a chance. There's certain players that when we're linked to them, it's financially possible. It has that sort of realism as well. David Ornstein said Man United's preference is to keep Marcus Rashford and work with him in order for him to recapture his previous form. But we do know that if Rashford wants to leave, United are open to that as well. David Ornstein has just come out and cleared that as well. If Rashford leaves, would it be a shock? I wouldn't be totally shocked if Rashford left this summer, to be honest. I don't think Rashford will go, so I guess I will be shocked because I don't think Rashford will go. I think when you've got Anthony that's worse, Sancho that won't play for the manager, and Greenwood with all those external issues, you've got three wingers there that you need to get out before before Rashford. You've got maybe Ahmad and Pellistri that aren't going to be guaranteed minutes. And while I'd like to see Ahmad give them more minutes, you just have to look at a realistic perspective. Unless Man United know they're going to get big money for Rashford and they know that they've got a good replacement, I don't think United would sell Rashford because it doesn't make loads of sense. I know a lot of people will be in here saying sell Rashford, get rid of him. It makes sense if a huge bid comes in and we've got a replacement lined up. But what you've got to remember is Rashford is better than Anthony. Rashford is better than Pellistri. Rashford, at least does, Sancho didn't want to play for us. And, you've got to look at it in that sense. That's why I think Rashford will stay, because you've got to look at the other wingers and the situation we're in. If Man United had a really good season and Rashford had a really crap season, you'd expect Rashford to be sold. But because every player at Manchester United, bar 4 players, has had a crap season this season, players like Rashford, who've also had a bad season, will stay because he's not had 2 bad seasons in a row. There's some players at United that have been bad 3, 4, 5 seasons in a row and got multiple managers sacked. Rashford has been player of the season 3 of the last 5 seasons. So even though he's been crap this season, INEOS will want to get out the players that have been crap the last 2-3 seasons before they get out the players that have just been crap this season. So that for me is Anthony, you've been crap for 2 seasons. Sancho, you've been crap for 3 seasons. Those 2 must go before Rashford. But if Rashford is crap next season, he's got to go as well. I think, you've got 2 years to prove yourself or you're out. You've got 2 years and, you're 1 year into this under INEOS and it's not going well. Where do you think Mason Greenwood will go? He'll go somewhere in Spain. I think we want 30 million for Greenwood, but I think it's going to be difficult to get 30 million for Greenwood because a lot of teams are reluctant to put a bid on Greenwood because of the whole situation that went on as well. Garnacho a better left winger right now. Rashford doesn't justify moving Garner to the right. I agree, but I'd rather see Rashford on the left than the right. Garnacho is a better right winger than Rashford. And I mean, at the moment, you can argue he's a better left winger than Rashford, which is why Garnacho's on the right. I think Rashford, when he's not on the left, is atrocious. I think right now, if we're being fair, Ahmad on the right and Garnacho on the left would probably be the fairest and probably most deserving front 3 to play. Let's dive into the next story. I do want to talk about the manager situation. We've been talking about transfers, potential ins and outs for a while, and I do want to talk about the manager situation. Marcel van der Kraan has done an interview, and he said Ajax technical director Alex Cruz has gotten Ten Hag at the top of his wanted list. He is his man and will wait for him until the end of May because by June 1st, they have to appoint a manager or make a decision. So we know that we'll know what Ten Hag's future is by June 1st and all the manager situation will be sorted by the end of May. What was interestingly said by Marcel van der Kraan is this: Erik ten Hag knows about Ajax interest in him. He knows there's an open door at Ajax and he can be the manager of Ajax next season and try and win their title again. Erik ten Hag is aware of Ajax interest. He knows there's potential of a move there next season. Erik ten Hag knows if he is sacked by Man United, he's going to have a line of clubs actually lining up to say, you know what, we wouldn't mind giving you the job. Mike Verwey said on Erik ten Hag, he said that if they believed that Erik wasn't interested in a return for Ajax, they wouldn't be in for him. The fact that they're in for him, says that Eric could potentially be interested in a return to Ajax. I think if Eric's at United, he's not going to dip United for Ajax, but I think if Eric gets sacked from United, I could see him definitely going to United. It was said that while, Graham Potter's been linked heavily to Ajax, he's not the number one for Ajax, and that Ajax's number one would be Ten Hag, and they'd wait for Ten Hag if they believe he's going to be sacked. The fact that Ajax haven't appointed a manager, and the fact that Jim Ratcliffe hasn't added any clarity on our current managerial situation, does make it look more and more likely that Ten Hag will probably go. Someone said, who are the three? Maino, Garnacho, and of course Højlund are the three that are safe. I'm going to get into another story, so just bear with me a second, but do hit that like button. And of course, subscribe down below if you're new, because I did sum up the whole manager situation as far as we know it on Twitter earlier today, and I actually want to read out this for you because I think this would be of some use and some info linking to this stream. But it was obviously said here, and this is based off reports, that Tuchel to Manchester United is heating up. Reports from many credible outlets, including The Athletic, confirm that the Man United job strongly appeals to Tuchel. We know that Tuchel would take the United job. Some reports, not tier one, but decent tier sources, are saying, that there has been talks going on between Tuchel's agents and United. And when you think about it, like Van Gaal and Man United, INEOS haven't shut down any speculation of a Ten Hag's future, despite numerous reports. INEOS could come out and address it and say, look, Ten Hag's safe. I think the fact that INEOS haven't addressed Ten Hag's future or said anything probably means he's not safe. I think if he was safe, INEOS would have probably said it by now. I think the fact they haven't said it by now and they've not announced anything by now says to me he might not be safe. But also we know that Tuchel doesn't want to stay at Bayern. He wants to return to England. He learned stuff in England and he actually really likes England, and he was really open to the United move. We also know on the manager situation that Brighton are going to demand a heavy fee for De Zerbi, and his recent form's making him less attractive. Ajax believe that Ten Hag will be available this summer, which suggests they think he's going to be up for sale, which suggests that Ajax believe that United are going to move him on. We know that Nagelsmann's staying as the Germany coach, and reportedly the new hierarchy recognises that the current squad isn't really equipped to play the football Nagelsmann plays using a back three, same with Motta. While Nagelsmann, Motta and Amorim are tactically probably the best manager options out there, I think when you look at the current Man United squad and you want someone to get a tune out of them next season and then build a long-term plan and philosophy, Thomas Tuchel's more suited to the crop of players we have than the other three managers. So Thomas Tuchel's more likely to have a positive instant impact as well. And Graham Potter, while he's rated, him and Southgate sort of sinners probably needing another job before they move over to United as well. So yeah, look, I'm okay with the idea of Thomas Tuchel. I have reserves about the youth team. I have reserves about a couple of points about Thomas Tuchel potentially falling out with the hierarchy, but he is a decent manager, and Thomas Tuchel to United seems to definitely be heating up as well. Someone said Eric Ten Hag's overhated. I agree. I think, look, Man United this season has been poor. Man United have been playing like a 16th, 17th place team this season, but I do think Eric Ten Hag's a little bit overhated. He did do well last season. He did do a really good job at Ajax. I think people don't realise how good Ten Hag was at Ajax. They hadn't won the trophy in 4 seasons. People think, it's the Eredivisie. Anyone can win the Eredivisie with Ajax. People don't realise that Ajax hadn't won the Eredivisie for 4 seasons. Ten Hag comes in, he wins them 3 out of 4. You've also got to think, since Ten Hag's left, Ajax have fallen apart. Well, tactically, Ten Hag isn't getting a lot right at United, and I'm not 100% convinced by what I'm seeing at United. I don't particularly like it. I do think that with the right staff, with the right players, Ten Hag can succeed. I think if the players can stay fit, if the recruitment staff can sort everything out and get good recruitment in and back Ten Hag and get Ten Hag working in the best environment with good players, I think he can succeed at Manchester United. I really do. Willy Kambala, Mason Mount, Kobe Maino, Garnacho, Højlund, Ten Hag in, or Thomas Tuchel in. For me, I'm just going to back whatever decision INEOS make. For me, I would like Ten Hag to stay and be successful, but I also know that INEOS are the experts, and I'm just going to back whatever decision they make, unless it's Southgate as well. It's not going amazing right now, but not remotely near the end. The same end as Jose, Oli, or Ralph. I agree with that as well. The one thing about Ten Hag is there'll be people saying Ten Hag's going to be sacked tomorrow, Ten Hag's going to be sacked this week. If Ten Hag is sacked, he's going to be told at the end of the season he's sacked after the Ajax game, after the Man City game in the FA Cup final. I'm very tired today, so I do apologise if I'm just absolutely waffling there. But Ten Hag won't know his future till after the FA Cup final for sure. For me, I don't think he will. yeah, just continuing on in the chat as well. Stubbornness is a flaw in Ten Hag. I agree. That is probably one of the biggest negatives of Ten Hag, as he is stubborn. He wants to do things his way and his way only as well. Media journalists talking about Ten Hag being sacked. Obviously, he's not been sacked, but there's a feeling he will be sacked as well. If he is sacked, Thomas Tuchel is set to replace Ten Hag, and it was said that Thomas Tuchel wants to go to the Islanders in England. He's hotly tipped as Man United. It's been said by good sources that Tuchel wants the Man United role, and Thomas Tuchel is on Man United's radar as Old Trafford hierarchy look for potential options with Erik Ten Hag's future in serious doubt. So I think for me right now, the way everything's looking, we've either got Erik Ten Hag next season or we've got Thomas Tuchel next season. No matter who we get next season, we've got to back INEOS' decision. They are the experts and hope that person does well. If Erik Ten Hag stays, he needs to change stuff. McLaren's done, sure, not sure on McCarthy and need a disciplinarian. I agree. We do know one thing, that Jason Wilcock's been assessing the staff and the people at United and already decided we need a fitness coach, which will massively, hopefully, improve us as well. My only concern to Thomas Tuchel is how he falls out with the hierarchy every club he works with. You know, the Glazers are someone that's quite easy to fall out with. And my other concern about Thomas Tuchel is what he does with the youth as well. But I do think that there's a good manager in Thomas Tuchel. And if INEOS do sack Ten Hag for Thomas Tuchel, I understand why INEOS have done it. And I'll say, you know what, INEOS are the footballing experts. They're the best in class. I'll leave them to make decisions. But I personally don't want Ten Hag to be sacked because I like the guy. People are saying Tuchel's a beat at Jose. I mean, a little bit, yeah, but he's a little bit more attacking than Jose as well. But listen, people, I'm about to fall asleep here, so I'm going to have to end up today's live stream. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Please hit that like button. Please do subscribe down below if you're new. See you next time. Bye.